What's up guys, Artem MMA Analysis here, going to be talking about UFC 274 Oliveira versus Gaethje, and this is a pretty decent pay-per-view in my opinion. I feel like it could be a little bit more stacked. I feel like we have had more stacked pay-per-views in the past, but it's still a great pay-per-view. Charlie Obbs, in my opinion, is a great fighter. He's definitely a great guy to watch, and Justin Gaethje always puts on a great fight. I've been looking at this card for a while now because I'm actually going to be doing a live fight companion for it. So what's going to happen is I'm actually going to be live streaming my commentary, and I'm going to have a little chat room as well, so everyone can kind of talk about the fights and talk about the fights as they're happening. So when the time comes around, make sure you keep an eye out for that. But hopefully I can quickly get through these fights because this is my first time ever looking at the card. I haven't done any research yet, and you'll see there's definitely some fights I need to do some research on, so I haven't really done too much research. We've got 15 fights on this card because very recently, actually today, Andre Filaho versus Cameron VanCamp was added to the card. So hey man, shout out to Andre Filaho. He only fought a couple of weeks ago, and he said that he wanted to fight next week, and unfortunately didn't get to fight that fast, but he's going to be fighting 3 weeks later. I think he's going to knock out Cameron VanCamp. I don't know if you guys know this, but Cameron VanCamp was signed recently to fight a guy making his debut in Nicholas Motta, sorry, and I believe Nicholas Motta was like a minus 300 favorite to beat Cameron VanCamp, and yeah, Nicholas Motta got knocked out by Jim Miller. So, hey man, I'm picking Andre Filaho by KO in this one here. I mean, obviously, don't know too much, but Andre Filaho by KO seems pretty safe. I feel like Andre Filaho has already proven himself to be a pretty decent fighter, especially with his KO win over Miguel Baeza in the first round in his last one. There's no odds for that fight yet, but there is fights for Newson versus Fernie Garcia. Fernie Garcia is going to be making his debut. I don't know if you guys know this, but he did fight Dana White's Contender Series. He knocked out Joshua Weems, who has actually been fighting bare knuckle MMA. I picked Joshua Weems to win that fight, and Fernie Garcia looks pretty good. He got a KO, which was his first KO in a while, because most of his wins do come by decision, because he's got a very heavy wrestling sort of style. He's going to be fighting Newson, who hasn't got a win in the UFC. I mean, he's got a no contest to Mingo Palate, and he lost to Randy Costa by KO. He lost to Ricardo Ramos by decision. Fernie Garcia does have power on the hands, but he really does more rely on like a wrestling sort of base. I'm picking Fernie Garcia to win probably a decision in this one here. And the odds for this one here is Fernie Garcia only about minus 200 worst value, minus 155 best value at the moment. So obviously odds are going a little bit crazy at the moment. Ariane Carnelossi versus Lupita Godinez. Ariane Carnelossi is actually the underdog in this one here. I accidentally just closed my fight odds tab. But yeah, Ariane Carnelossi is the underdog right now, and I'm probably going to be picking Ariane Carnelossi to win this fight, to be honest. She's going to be a little bit bigger than Lupita Godinez, who is like minus 200 favorite, minus 180 best value, minus 230 worst value. That's pretty crazy to me. I feel like Carnelossi should win this fight here. It's pretty close on the Tapology votes. A lot of people picking it to go to decision. Carnelossi's a savage, and look at the size of those biceps, man. They're bigger than mine. There's something going on there, but I will keep that one quiet, man. I don't know. Kleydson Rodrigues versus CJ Vergara. I'm picking Kleydson Rodrigues to win this one here. CJ Vergara lost to Odi Osbourne by decision, which isn't really too bad of a loss because Odi Osbourne does have a great stand-up game. And he did beat Bruno Correa, who I think was like a former Dana White's Contender Series fighter. He's fought on Dana White's Contender Series before, and he finished him very quickly in the first round. But what I don't like about CJ Vergara is I think it's really cringe. Like, he talks about having like a fight club in high school. Like, the guy's 31 years old. Like, he just needs to grow up a little bit. It's just really cringy. And his story, I don't think, unless he's trying to get like a 12-year-old fan base, I don't think anyone's really going to get behind it. And he missed weight in his last fight as well. Kleydson Rodrigues, on the other hand, man, like, you can't really find too much footage on this guy, but he put on a really good performance against Santo Curatolo in his last win here. And Santo Curatolo, I think, did take the fight on short notice from memory. But all of his wins, man, he has got a lot of flashy striking. He's got great kicks as well. All of his Facebook posts are like highlight reel, like kicks and spinning kicks and stuff. Kleydson Rodrigues does have a pretty well-rounded skill set. He's from Tino Guerra, so he's going to have good jiu-jitsu, but he does have a great stand-up game as well. I think Kleydson Rodrigues is going to outclass CJ Vergara over here, and Kleydson Rodrigues is almost like a minus 300 favorite, worst value, minus 264 best value at the moment. So Kleydson Rodrigues is my pick to win this one here. This next one's a little bit dicey. We've got Tracy Cortez versus Melissa Gatto. Melissa Gatto is actually undefeated with 8 wins and 2 draws. But both of those draws, you could actually argue that she lost those fights. So it's a little bit iffy on that one there. And Tracy Cortez, as we all know, obviously is with Brian Ortega right now. She's got a great wrestling game. She's got a younger brother who didn't win on Dana White's Contender Series last year, but she's got good Wrestling, I guess she beat Justin Kish by split decision, and Justin Kish recently beat the former Bellator champion, if I'm thinking about the right person. She did beat Stephanie Eger, who's got a great judo game as well. Like, the wins that she's got are pretty good, even the win over Maria Agapova. Melissa Gatto, though, she did knock out Sajaro Eubanks with a body kick, and she did also break Victoria Leonardo's arm. Like, it's pretty savage, man. Melissa Gatto, potentially a live underdog here at his women's MMA, which is always pretty tricky to bet. Melissa Gatto sitting at 1 plus 150. Tracy Cortez about minus 180. Now we'll be going with Tracy Cortez to win this one here. Francisco Trinaldo and Danny Roberts. I'm probably going to be signing with Danny Roberts here as the underdog. I think Francisco Trinaldo is actually finding himself as the favorite right now at about minus 120 odds or so, and you can get Danny Roberts at best value plus money, but I feel like the odds are flipping a little bit. You can get Danny Roberts minus 120 at some places as well. I'm picking Danny Roberts to win. He recently beat Ramazan Ameev. He also beat Zalim Imadiev before losing to a couple of decent guys, and he does have the win over David Zawada as well, but David Zawada recently lost to Alex Moreno, so kind of is what it is. But Francisco Trinaldo, what stands out to me the most is the fact that this guy is 44 years old almost. Like, that's pretty crazy. He does have a win over Dwight Grant, which hasn't aged super well, to be fair. But yeah, apart from that, he does have a win over Bobby Green, which has aged pretty well. But he's 44 years old. I'm picking Roberts in this one here just to start it off. And yeah, as I said, he's very close odds, about evens odds there. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to be going with Blagoy Ivanov to beat Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Yes, Marcos Rogerio de Lima did recently knock out Ben Rothwell in less than a minute, which is pretty impressive. But Blagoy Ivanov, if you guys don't know, has got a crazy ground game. I believe he's got an insane ground game, actually. He's got a lot of experience outside of MMA in grappling. And I think that, I mean, he's still not super old for the heavyweight division. He's almost 36. He's on a 2-fight split decision loss streak to Derek Lewis and Augusto Sakai, who I believe are both top 15 fighters right now. I think he can beat Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I'm going Blagoy Ivanov probably by a decision. And if you look at the odds right now, Blagoy Ivanov sitting around minus 150, minus 160 in the odds there. Brandon Royval versus Matt Schnell. I will be going with Brandon Royval to probably find a finish. He's got great wins. He's got the submission win over Tim Elliott, who's always very hard to finish. He's also beaten Kai Kara France. Kai Kara France is probably going to find himself in the title picture right now. And his 2 losses recently to Brandon Moreno and Alejandro Pantoja. Not bad losses to have on your record as well. He did beat Rogerio Bontorin about 3 months ago in a very competitive fight. And Brandon Royval's finding himself about minus 250. So potentially Matt Schnell could be very good live at plus 200. But I do think Brandon Royval's a crazy fighter, man. He's always looking for the finish, and I feel like he's one of the better finishers in the flyweight division. I think we're going to see Royval find a submission over Matt Schnell in this one here. Macy Chiasson versus Norma Dumont. This is a hard fight for me to pick because I do actually like Macy Chiasson a little bit as a prospect. She's been signed to the UFC since she was like 2-0 or something from the Ultimate Fighter. Season 29, I think it was, she was on. And the wins that she's had aren't super great. Like, she did lose to Matt Raquel Pennington by guillotine 4 months ago. And Norma Dumont recently did have a main event spot against Aspen Ladd, probably one of the worst main events we've ever seen. And this fight is taking place at featherweight. I don't really know why this division still exists, but if there is a true featherweight in the women's division right now, it is Macy Chiasson. She's 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. I think that we're going to see Dumont win this fight here because I think she's going to be a little bit well-rounded, but Macy Chiasson does have good stand-up. Yeah, but Norma Dumont almost minus 250. I feel like that's a little bit way too wide of a line for Norma Dumont in my opinion. And the featured prelim, this is a great featured prelim. It'll probably get people to buy pay-per-views because of how good it's about to be. Randy Brown and Chaos Williams will go to war in this fight here, and I will be picking Chaos Williams to finish the fight with a knockout. He hits and he lands very hard. I mean, he knocked out Miguel Baeza and he exposed Miguel Baeza for having terrible striking defense. He went to decision with Matt Semmelsberger, but it is because Matt Semmelsberger is just like Chaos Williams, and the fact that he is a savage. Lost to Mikhail Pahea, but Mikhail Pahea is on a bit of a win streak right now. Knocked out the KO artist and Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and he also knocked out Alex Moreno, who is actually pretty difficult to finish at the moment. Randy Brown, though, he's got a good submission game. He submitted Alex Oliveira. He did take Jared Gooden to a decision. He did beat Jared Gooden. There's the one loss recently coming to Vicente Luque. He's like a top 5 fighter right now. I think that Chaos Williams has the better wins in his record recently, but Randy Brown is going to be a bit longer. He's 6'3", and he does have a good ground game. I think it's either Williams KO or Randy Brown submission, but I'm going to be banking a little bit more on Chaos Williams finding the finish. And you can find Chaos Williams at around minus 140, minus 123, best value, minus 160 even at one sports book there. So Randy Brown, potentially a live underdog in this one here, but Chaos Williams opened himself up as a favourite a little bit. Now we've got the start of the veteran fighters. The first two fights of the main card are veterans, and we've got Donald Cerrone, who's been in there for a long time, 36-16 record against Joe Lauzon, who's 28-15 and hasn't fought for about 2.5 years. The thing with Donald Cerrone is he's been on a pretty bad losing streak right now. In fact, with the draw with Nico Price, but he's been active. He's been fighting very often. He has been losing very often, but he's been fighting very often. But he's older than Joe Lauzon by about a year now. I feel like the damage that he's been taking is a lot more. Like, there's a KO loss to Conor McGregor in there. There's a KO loss to Justin Gaethje in there. There's a KO loss, standing TKOs to Alex Morono in there as well. And that doesn't look that good. I don't know how long Donald Cerrone is going to be able to hold up against the ground and pound of Joe Lauzon. I don't know if you guys have seen the fight with Jonathan Pearce, but Joe Lauzon, yes, it was about 2.5 years ago, but Joe Lauzon ground and pounded out Jonathan Pearce, who's actually a pretty decent prospect right now. Joe Lauzon at plus 150, I like. I think that he's actually a pretty good underdog, and at the moment I am kind of siding with Joe Lauzon. I know a lot of people want Donald Cerrone to win, but this is going to go on my this is going on my record, man. I'm going to be probably putting my name behind the Joe Lauzon pick, but I would not be surprised at Donald Cerrone, because Donald Cerrone's got a great jiu-jitsu game. I don't know if you guys know this, but he did fight in the 2021 Jiu-Jitsu World Championships. Yes, he didn't win. He didn't win against Craig Jones, but that's Craig Jones, who's an absolute crazy jiu-jitsu ace right now. And then he did lose to Joe Solecki in Fury Pro Grappling. But I'm glad to see that he's doing this as well. And he also submitted Rafael Dos Anjos, who's like a crazy black belt in jiu-jitsu as well. I think Joe Lauzon, potential live underdog in this one here. It's hard to tell though with these guys, with these older guys. Same thing with OSP and Shogun Rua. I am going with OSP in this one here, but OSP hasn't looked too good in his last two fights. But that was to Jamal Hill, and that was to Tanner Boser. Like, Tanner Boser, in my opinion, is a little bit overrated at the moment. Like, I haven't really seen too much of Tanner Boser to really kind of side with him. But Shogun Rua, he hasn't fought for about a year and a half, and even then, he tapped his strikes from Paul Craig, who's more known for submissions. But he did beat Antonio Rogerio and Nogueira by split decision. That was almost 2 years ago. Another older guy, split draw to Paul Craig even, and then he also did knock out Tyson Pedro 3.5 years ago. The guy that's been more active is OSP. The guy that is a little bit younger is OSP. And the guy that's going to be a little bit bigger in the octagon is OSP as well. It's hard to kind of tell who's going to win this one because they're both older guys, but I feel like the guy that is probably prepared to take more, to give more, will be OSP in this one. So I'm going to be going with OSP. I just don't know how much I can trust Shogun Rua to take a shot at this point in his career. So I'm going with OSP to win this one. He's about minus 300 at worst value, minus 230 at best value. So maybe you've got an underdog in Shogun Rua, but it's just so hard to predict these guys. Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chandler. I really wish this was a 5-round fight. I do have some concern about the cardio difference between these two guys, because I don't know if you guys know, but Tony Ferguson has been well known for having some of the best cardio in the lightweight division for a very long time now. And Michael Chandler, he gassed in the first round to Charlie Olives. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the reason why Charlie Olives was really able to finish him off was because Michael Chandler was gassed. He was very tired on the stool after that first round. That was a very high action, a high pace first round with Charlie Olives. And then he did lose to Justin Gaethje in a fight he probably could have won if he wasn't showboating too much in the third round. I feel like Michael Chandler probably did have an opportunity to win that fight, but he let it slip away in his hands a little bit. Tony Ferguson, unfortunately, on a 3-fight losing streak, which sucks to see. Lost to Justin Gaethje on that COVID card when they went back to Dubai. By TKO, where Justin Gaethje had a great fight, to be fair. Charlie Olives as well beat him by decision, and he almost broke his arm as well in that first round. And then he lost to Beneil Dariush, who's also kind of up and coming right now. We need to see Beneil Dariush fight again, because that fight was 11 months ago. But but before that though, Tony Ferguson was on like a crazy 12-fight win streak. He was meant to fight Khabib like 4 times. And in hindsight, I think Khabib would have won that fight. But Tony Ferguson, man, it's a real shame we never got to see that fight. I am picking Michael Chandler to win by KO because he's got that power. But I feel like if this was a 5-round fight, which it isn't, if this was a 5-round fight, Tony Ferguson would be much more of a live underdog if he could last the first 3 rounds of Chandler, because Chandler would gas out, I think, in a 5-round fight at this point in his career. I'm picking Chandler KO, unfortunately. But, yeah, man, I feel like Tony Ferguson would be a much more live underdog if it was a 5-round fight. But Michael Chandler's about minus 400. Plus 300 at Tony Ferguson ain't looking too bad. Moving on to Carla Esparza versus Rose Namajunas. This is a rematch where Carla Esparza won the first one, and since then Carla split decision Esparza has managed to rack up a few split decision and majority decisions on her way to this title shot. She beat Yan Xiaonan, which is a pretty good win because Yan Xiaonan put on a very good performance against Marina Rodrigues. In fact, I think Yan Xiaonan won that fight against Marina Rodrigues. But moving on from that, man, Carla Esparza, I think she is the only person to beat Marina Rodrigues at this point as well. She's got a great wrestling game, but she is a little bit one-dimensional. I feel like Rose Namajunas is quite well-rounded. She's got a great striking game now that she's working with Trevor Wickman and Justin Gaethje. She went to war with Zhang Weili. She knocked out Zhang Weili first time. The thing is, Rose Namajunas is, if she beats Carla Esparza, she's going to have held wins over every single strawweight champion. She's got a win over Jessica Andrade. She's got a win over Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and she's got a win over Zhang Weili, and now she's about to get a win over Carla Esparza if she defends. And I'm picking her to defend. Rose Namajunas, almost like minus 200 favorite right now, which is pretty crazy. Don't necessarily know how I feel about that one. But yeah, Rose Namajunas I'm picking with not super high amount of confidence. I feel like Namajunas does have better cardio than Esparza. But Esparza, if she starts to work her game early on in the first couple of rounds, we potentially could see a live dog in Esparza to win the fight by decision. But Namajunas is live for a KO. She's also live for a submission as well. I believe most of her wins, or a decent amount of her wins, have come by submission. Just not really recently, but before that she was known for her submission wins. And moving on, speaking of submission wins, if you guys want to bet this fight, I do have an affiliateship with BetUS. My link is down below. If you can get a 125% deposit bonus. If you deposit $100, you're going to get $125 back. So you get to more than double your money just by using my link and my code as well there. So that's in the description if you're interested in that. And now we're going to talk about the main event, the one that everyone wants to see. Charlie Olives versus Justin Gaethje. I'm picking Charlie Olives to win this one. I've picked Charlie Olives to win every single fight that I've had on my channel, which is only 2, so I'm 2-0 in Charlie Olives picks. I picked him to beat Michael Chandler, and I picked him to beat Dustin Poirier, and I believe he was actually the slight underdog against Chandler as well, I think. And he's a slight underdog against Poirier. I think he's a slight favourite against Chandler. But yeah, Justin Gaethje, he looked really bad against Khabib, and that was because I think he was a little bit scared of the grappling. Justin Gaethje obviously has that insane wrestling background that everyone keeps talking about, but just doesn't really use it because he likes to use the striking. But, yeah, once the fight gets to the ground, he doesn't necessarily have the best jiu-jitsu game. And the guy that does have the best jiu-jitsu game is Charlie Olives. I have heard that Charlie Olives wants to make this a stand-up fight and fight on the feet. I do not want that to happen because Charlie Olives is a very, very hittable on the feet, and he does take a lot of damage when the fight is on the feet. So hopefully Charlie Olives has the fight IQ, which I know he will. He's very experienced. This is his 41st fight. To take the fight to the ground, because that's where he needs the fight to be if he wants to beat Justin Gaethje. I'm picking Charlie Olives by submission. He's got a great submission game. Some of the best submissions in the UFC in the lightweight division. You can get Charlie Olives about like minus 160, but you've got a live underdog in Justin Gaethje at about plus 150 or so, which is crazy because Justin Gaethje, man, he's got the power, and Charlie Olives is very hittable on the feet. You do see Charlie Olives get hit on the feet quite a bit, and that's pretty scary. Sort of thing to see, especially when you're fighting a power puncher like Justin Gaethje. But the other thing about Justin Gaethje, speaking of power punches, he's taken a lot of punches as well. It's very hard to watch his interviews because he slows when he talks now, man. It's scary to watch when you see Justin Gaethje because he's been in so many wars. He's taking so much damage. But Charlie Olives, I feel like he's taking damage too. He takes damage in the first round. I mean, he got hurt. I don't know if he got hurt, but he definitely ate a few decent shots from Dustin Poirier. He got dropped by Michael Chandler in the first round as well. Like, this is scary for Charlie Olives, man. But I'm picking Charlie Olives by submission. He's got one of the better ground games in the lightweight division, probably the best ground game in the lightweight division right now, jiu-jitsu wise. So yeah, Justin Gaethje, yeah, he's gonna have probably good takedown defense because of his crazy wrestling background, but we don't really see it tested. We don't really see him use it. Justin Gaethje ain't gonna be shooting for takedowns in this one. And yeah, Justin Gaethje live for a KO, but I'm gonna be picking Charlie Olives to win by submission in this one.